Armada book for Chapter 2 The Trikuses Part 3. I just got a communication from Tonin that 2 Hops ships are missing from their designated areas 2 days ago. The Norsets have records of who and what were transported before they went missing. There were 36 infiltrators composed of 4 Inkees, 10 Marantais, 10 Slanders, and 6 Bourbons. All were armed with laser guns. They killed everyone on board the Hop ships and beamed their bodies into the next Hops. Olive said. Where were they headed? Roger asked. The Hops ships have beacons on them so we would know where they are positioned in the galaxies. Apparently, the infiltrators did not know this. They have been tracked as they moved, but the other Hops did not engage them since they wanted us to deal with them. Their trail puts them near the Slander planets we are supposed to be going to. They know Olive. It's all part of their plan. Roger countered. So the enemy operation has been planned way in advance, unconnected with Billy's and Linda and Lachine operation. They probably timed it with the invasion. Andrew said. I sense a bait and a trap. Roger said. We need a good plan. Andrew said. We may need the Marantais here. Roger said. Yes, send out word. Olive, prepare all the ships to leave within 2 hours. As soon as we say our goodbyes to Garby, we leave. They may lure us into a long drawn-out war, not in space but on the planets. They would rely on their superior numbers. Roger commented. Maybe, right now I just don't see how they can do that. They have left the Trikus planet and were headed for Lachine and Linda's position. The next day, Ellie beamed into Andrew's bridge to find Roger, Reek and Cerudum talking about the lost Hops ships. In front of them was a large hologram of the Slander galaxies and portion of the Maqeeri galaxies. A lighted planet showed where the lost Hops ships were located. Just then Junie and his daughter beamed in. Andrew exclaimed, Hi King Junie, Chaylin, I thought you got lost in the ships already. Junie countered, No, we were busy learning how to read and write and talk. Well, you both seem to be fast learners. Roger said. Andrew looked at Ellie. Sir, I have an idea. Ellie said. Okay, my dear science officer, how can we use science in our strategic plans? We all know it's going to be a trap. They know we will be sending a scout ship, fully complemented, to see what's up. Ellie paused to walk in front of the group nearer to the hologram of the galaxies. We're listening. Roger quipped. Ellie continued, Our drones can carry a telecom repeater in its small payload area. The plan is to send these drones as scout ships and then deploy the probes in the target areas. I am so sure they have taken hold of at least one Armada ship with scanning capabilities like what we have, able to scan up to 600 MLY. They would know we are coming. If we deploy these drones with probes as communications relays, we would know the battlefield before we enter it. We would still have to deploy scout ships. They know this is what we'll do. Andrew said. From my point of view, they will employ our tactics on us. They will beam a bomb onto the ships and blow selected areas. Maybe they will target the engines and power generators, then board the ships so they can take over. They will probably send exploding tags and beam our people out, or maybe just send in bombs to kill our people when the shields are down. Roger said. But they can only beam in when the shields are compromised or down. They will do it the way we do it. They will attack way ahead of the target area when our ships have not raised the shields. Andrew said. That means Ellie's probes would come in really handy way ahead of the target area. Roger said. Ellie, work on those drones ASAP. Sir, I already have. I will complete about 100 relay drones and more than 1,000 drone probes in 5 days. I will also rig some small drones that can be deployed and controlled from our ships on the back of the drone probes. What about shield? Can you reprogram our shields to be on in some areas of the ship and off in some? Roger asked. I guess that's possible. Let me work on it to be sure. Getting information from the field is one thing. Reacting strategically is another. Once we open our hand with the probes, we must have a fluid plan to knock them out. Cerudum said. The trap is not so obvious, but they know our next move, what we'll do and where we will go. Reek said. We need to study the enemy's objectives and courses of action against our courses of action. Andrew said. After more than a week they reach Linda's area. Linda, Lachine and their group beams in to find Andrew and GX1 in the mission hall with Reek and Junie. Gadden, I thought you were promoted to ambassador. Andrew greeted. Very funny, Andrew. I was touring Lachine and these two decided to engage the invaders. So what can I say? Well, suddenly your group became famous. I guess you did not know, but the Mac planet celebrated your achievement. Ellie said. Linda, Lachine, Jenny, Nick, Keelmill, please take a seat. First, I want to congratulate you on your last 2 missions. You have performed splendidly. Although I would have liked a little more drama. Andrew said, and the people laughed. Andrew continued, but that's okay, you have made the Armada proud of you. So now we were just discussing how we would be approaching the area. Roger gave Linda's group a quick run-up of the more important points discussed. As he was about to finish, Eric beams in. Roger was about to do another explanation when Tonen and Gantley beams in with several of their commanders. So we're here again on an intergalactic engagement, Tonen said. He did not even introduce his 3 commanders. Gantley was more sensitive as he introduced his 4 commanders. Linda, Lachine, Jenny, Nick, Keelmill, I wish to congratulate you in your last 2 missions. You have made us, our group, very proud, Gantley said. Linda, her group, thanked Gantley. Okay, so we're together again to save the galaxies, Andrew said. I miss your drama, Andrew. I try to be more dramatic, always asking what kind of drama would Andrew do in this case. Tonen said. As long as you don't call me the drama king, that's fine. Oh, not me, Andrew, but everybody else does. The people laughed. This time Roger started from the top and explained in a little more detail what was previously discussed. Again, even if deploy the probes, we still need a knockout punch. Lachine, any ideas? Ellie asked. If I may. I have been studying your probes and action plans. Lachine started. She stood up and approached the hologram of the galaxies. The enemy would expect us to come here from the left and from here from the top right. They would let 5 scout ships through and wait for the main force. They would be deploying their forces here in these planets on the left and here for the attack on the right coming from above. They would be installing plasma cannons here and here. TPs would be here and here. They would expect us to fly nearer the planets for cover. Then they would attempt to weaken the shield by attacking the ships with our own plasma cannons, but since they increase the range, the accuracy will fall off. They will compensate this with higher volumes and ships from these areas. Their objective is not to take on the Armada but to take over Armada ships. Then they will stall and sue for peace. By then they have our ships. This will enable them to be on equal footing against the Armada. And this is their objective, that we should deny them this. Lachine continued, this area here is open for the drone probes. A quadruple redundant line of drone probes along this route, and this route will enable us to creep several 100,000 drones into the target area. The objective is to ID where their TPs, ships and plasma cannons are lying in ambush. Attack these positions and the ships, then the scout ships, beam the ground troops and clean up the area. Or we can beam a cloaking disc on the ground and cloak a very large area to clean them of Maqeeris, then we put the Marines on the ground aided by probes and drones. Why would they expect us to pass through that left area and the upper right? Andrew asked. Boss, look at it. These are the safest areas to pass our scouts and later our ships through, especially at our ship's size and speed. Compare these paths to this frontal part. The front is crowded with very short direct lines, it is littered with small planets with a lot of moons, an asteroid area here and a long void here. The solar system's too close to each other. If you were to attack carefully given our ships and Armada size with full shield as you travel at high speed, where would you pass? You will pass through these 2 corridors. They know that and we know that. So we give them what they expect, 5 scout ships per corridor. What they do not expect is a probe line along these crowded areas. Notice there are no gas planets here, well there's one over here, but the idea is that there is nowhere for us to hide our ships. I like that. But Lachine, what if we send a 3rd scout group? Where would they expect these to pass? Roger asked. I thought about that and the answer is from the lower back left here. Look at these areas, the only constricted portion is this area of 3 solar systems. They would expect us here also, and they probably are hiding in these gas planets and these planets and moons as well. What they will do is to position early warning sensors in these areas anywhere from 900 MLY to 500 MLY away from their galaxies. They will know where we will be coming from. Did you just think about these just right now, Lachine? Junie asked. It just comes, very quickly, if I may say so. Sarudam stood and, okay, Ellie, can their sensors see our drones? No. They are too small. If their sensors are cloaked, they will still not see these because they are simply too small to detect. I like the plan. So we would be deploying the probes much early on to have them detect the enemy positions. Lachine, we have more than 1 million drone operators, so we can send in more. What we can do is send and park them midway, then send some more. I know they will rely on numbers, so we have to rely on numbers as well. Andrew commented. How large an area does the portable cloaking devices cover, Ellie? Sarudam asked. At maximum power, the newer cloaking devices will cover maybe several hundred square miles. Ellie answered. You're thinking of sending troops in? Linda commented. Sarudam continued, if you think about it, the drones are slightly larger than a Talonot. We can create a capsule, like smaller versions of our escape pods, and strap it onto the drone. Deploy the drone to the target planets where the enemy have bases and long-range plasma cannons, deploy the cloaking devices and overrun the camp. That's actually a very good idea, but not all bases would be purely Maqeeris. They would have Slanders as well. And not all bases would require ground troops. We have to choose our battles well. Lachine said. Then in that case, if we choose our battles, we can deploy in larger team groups. If we can deploy 1,000,000 drones into the fields, we can deploy as many people also. But only in targeted areas. We have to make sure our troops are deployed into engagements which absolutely require them. Roger said. See, this is what we want to avoid. A long drawn-out ground war. This is probably part of their trap. Andrew said. A limited engagement would be good. We send in the shock troops. Let the drones do their job after delivering the ground troops. The drones would control the pace of the engagement. The ground troops will deal with the Slanders in limited areas. If they are not strategic, they will not engage. We will not even bring the troops in these areas. Tonin commented. 900 mly on the back of a drone will be very taxing for our troops. That's 4 or 5 days in a cramped capsule. Gantley observed. We can freeze them and unfreeze remotely or timed with some control given to the occupant. Ellie said. Then in that case make the deployment voluntary on our people. We will deploy only those who volunteer. Andrew said. I think it could work. The enemy will not expect us to send in troops on the back of drones. They do not even expect that we will go through the frontal areas and establish for drone lines. The frontal areas are so crowded they will be looking for big ships which will stand out, not drones. Then we will have to ID our targets well. Sarudam said. ID first the command and control positions, their communication centers, and then the last would be their plasma cannons and TPs. Andrew said. Lachine whispered to Linda, what's command and control? Linda whispered the answer back and Lachine nodded. How do we bring our troops back? Andrew asked. We can send out Vintas, deploy them as Hops ships. They would beam our ground troops on board and transfer them to the next ships, then all the way back to the Armada. What will happen is after engagement, the Armada would be moving towards the planets through the two areas, very fast towards the Slander planets. Ellie answered. So we would cripple the Slanders first before we deal with the Maqeeris? Andrew asked. Makes sense to me. They probably have dismantled the stolen ships already. So the first order would be to make sure the Slanders are kept at bay. Roger said. The Maqeeris will not engage. They may be very aggressive but not stupid. Sarudam said. Maybe we can talk to the Maqeeri leaders. Roger said. What if all of these is a ploy to pitch us against the Slanders? To enable the Maqeeris to keep the Slanders on a leash. Lachine commented. That is entirely possible. And the Maqeeris do not care about the results of our actions on the Slanders, and if this is the case, we would see an end to the Slanders' partnerships with the Maqeeris. With our victory over the Slanders would end up less powerful and may even be beholden to the Maqeeris. Andrew said. Then a knockout blow would be required so we don't have to negotiate. Lachine said. I know where you're heading, Lachine. Lachine is suggesting we move directly against the Maqeeri royalty. Roger said. If our probes show very few Maqeeri ships, then their ploy is obvious. They want us to do their dirty deeds. Olive, where is the Maqeeri royalty? Andrew asked. We do not have updated information. The capital planet is this one, but we do not know where the royalty are. Olive answered. The probes must then creep all around the Maqeeri capital planet to find the royalty. Ellie said. We need a Mac to go down and talk to the Macs on the ground. Then the Mac would have to relay the message to us. Gadden said. Very good, Gadden. Olive, ask around for Mac volunteers. It's going to be a straight flight to the capital planet frozen in time in a capsule strapped to a drone. Roger said. If the capital planet is this one, the best route to take would not be through the quadruple line but via a single line through this area here, then move to this area here, then to the capital planet. But we always have to be redundant, so this line slightly to the right would be safe also. So 2 lines, here and this one. Lachine said. The routes make sense. Olive, how long from here to the planet using that route? Andrew asked. From here, 5 days, 8 hours and 20 minutes to the ground. Olive answered. So it's not much different. We can send 4 dozen Macs to infiltrate the planet. Roger said. We have 108,423 volunteers in the past 3 minutes. Olive said. Maybe 400 would be a good number. The drones would have to form a line for our command and control. Andrew said. I think we should send more, like 100,000 to tag all the Macs on the planet. Tonin countered. So once we find the royalty we would talk to the king? Ellie asked. Yes, and nicely too. Andrew added. If all this is a ploy, then the king will not be too accommodating. They will push their plan through and make us engage at this side of the battlefield. Reek said. Then we will nicely deploy the cloaking device and burn their implants. Andrew added. That's not very nice. Remember they have Max in their planets. They might take the issue with them and we basically will be endangering their lives. Maybe Tonan's figure on the taggers may be the correct number. Ellie said. Then we would have to have a Trojan horse that will give us time and enable our Max to tag all the Max on the planets. Then as the ships get closer, say in a few days, we start beaming them out from 80 MLY away. Andrew said. The Trojan horse would be better used in the engagement with the Slanders. Roger commented. But they will negotiate for peace and this will make them on equal footing with us, something I don't think I would accept. Andrew said. Roger is right. It's all about timing. I think we have 2 days when their eyes are on the Slanders. We can use these 2 days to tag the Max. Or we can delay winning the battle here for a few more days and give enough time for our ships to get within beaming range of the Maqeeri planets. Lachine said. We would have to talk to the king very early on the war so he would not agree to stop the war, then we deploy the cloaking device. Andrew said. Or we can delay the engagement altogether but deploy our taggers immediately. Give them 10 days head start. I think that should be enough. Then the Armada moves in park at 80 MLY and stay there. Then after beaming all the Max into our ships, we talk to the king. He will not agree of course because the engagement has not occurred yet. Then we deploy the cloaking device. Then we engage the Slanders. Ellie added. How about a divide and conquer strategy? Junie said. Absolutely right. Who are you by the way? Gantley asked. Andrew laughed and introduced Junie to Tonan, Gantley, and to Linda's groups. Okay, so I agree with Junie here. Why do we have to give credit to the Maqeeri king? Let the Slanders in on his plan. We can do the same thing to the Slander royalties. Creep with our drones, tag the royalty by appearing as Slanders. Then beam them in time boxes. So when Andrew meets with the king, we will have the Slanders present, cloaked of course, but able to see what the king is saying. Gantley said. But we would still need to let the engagement occur to divide them. And we need to neutralize their capabilities to wage war on us and on each other. Linda said. Yes, so while I'm talking to the Maqeeri king, the engagement has already occurred, and the Max are all tagged and some have been beamed already. And the Slander royalty is watching cloaked inside a time box. The king will not agree, giving us the reason to destroy his ships and facilities. Andrew said. The plan is good but complex. Sarudam said. I think that first order of the day is that we should send the probes now so we can verify our assumptions and revise our plans. We should also send the Mac taggers to the Maqeeri galaxies, concentrating on the capital planet first to tag and gather information so we can revise our plans as well. Finally, immediately send cloaked taggers to the Slander royalty. Tonan said. All you heard the man. Only volunteers. How long can we expect to finish the pods, Ellie? Andrew asked. 100,000 with onboard controls and life support, assuming all our ships make them, then install them, maybe 8 days. Ellie said. So in the meantime we send the probes out to gather intel. How many and when can they leave? Andrew asked. We would probably need for both the Slander battle areas, which has 4 lines, and Maqeeri operation which require 2 lines, so 70, maybe 80 relay drones and more than 1,000 drone probes with full infiltration capabilities going around the Slander battlefield and the Maqeeri capital. We already have rigged up more than 5,000 drone probes. We just need to rig up 40 relay drones. The drone probes can leave now and the relay drones can leave tomorrow. We will start getting intel in 4 days from the 2 corridors and 5 days on the Slander planets and 6 days from the Maqeeris. Ellie explained. So until we get the intel, our plans are on standby. Olive, make sure the drones do not overlap in their target areas and tell the Norsets or other drone operators to be mindful of their surroundings, hide if possible and stay away from engagement. Yes, Andrew. I have to go and start on the probes and the pods. Ellie said. Chaylin approached Ellie. Can I work with you, Miss Ellie? Chaylin said. Sure, come on. Ellie smiled at her and held her hand, and as they walked out of the room Ellie put an arm on her shoulder. If there are no more issues, lunch is on me. Andrew said. All of a sudden the room became noisy with issues. Gantley approached Junie. So you were the king of Rekan. I read about your war and how you managed your kingdom. I am honored to work with you. The honor is really mine. It was a good thing Reek offered to take me in, otherwise I would have died of boredom. Now if I prove myself, I can be a ship captain as well. You don't have to prove anything to me. If you have it, you have it. I have an extra ship, if you want it's yours. Oh no, I have to complete my training with Roger. I don't want to mess up by being too eager. Maybe in a few months or after this engagement. As you wish, Junie. Lachine turned to Linda. Linda, it amazes me to be here at all. These people are the top military minds in their galaxies. So Junie is a king and under training with Roger? Well, you were your sister's queen and you were under training with Ellie, Jenny and me. Later on he will be on his own like you are now. There is so much more to learn, I cannot even imagine when I would stop learning. Linda smiled. Come, let's have lunch. Jenny, Nick, how about you guys?